Hi everyone, it's Margo. I hope you're doing well. Today's episode is an interview with the artist Saltnpaper. If you watch some Kdramas, I'm pretty sure that you know him because he worked on several Kdramas OST, such as, for example, Tears in the Trap or Chicago Typewriter, and many more. So today I'm back for a very interesting interview, and just in case the interview is divided in two parts, and right now you are listening to the first part where we talked about his career and we also talked about the Kdrama OSTs that he worked on. Before we get started, if you want to know more about Saltnpaper, I will leave his Spotify, YouTube channel, and social media in the description box below, so don't forget to check it out. I got so much value from this interview and I hope that you will like it as well. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it for the introduction. So without further ado, let's get started with the interview. So first of all, I will let you maybe introduce yourself for the one who just discovered you.
Sure. Hi, my name is Mike, or AKA MYK, or AKA Saltnpaper, and I make music.
Yeah, actually, I've been following you for a while because you are behind some of my favorite OSTs ever, such as I'm not spoiling it yet for the interview, but Chicago Typewriter, one of my favorite OSTs so far. So I'm happy to have you here. So thank you for accepting the invitation.
Thank you for having me.
So maybe we can start with the introduction for the one who just discovered you. So you just introduced you. So I will ask some quick questions so that we can learn a bit more about you. So for the one who maybe just discovered you today, you are a musician. You have worked behind some famous K-dramas OSTs, and you also have your own songs as well. You worked with Epik High in the
Yeah.
past.
Yes.
And I've read in an interview that you were born in the US, right?
Yes.
Yes, and you decided to pursue music when you were like 18 or something in Korea?
Yeah, that's about maybe like 21, 20, 20, 21. Yeah.
Yeah. So can you tell us maybe why you decided to pursue music in Korea?
That's a funny story because um, I didn't necessarily make the conscious decision to pursue music professionally, but I think I got really lucky um, as far as the Korea side of things because I happened to go there during the time of that age when I was trying to find a way to continue to do music. Obviously, I was doing music throughout my teenage years and up until that age, but I wanted to continue to do it, and so I ended up going to Korea, actually unrelated to music, but I had like an internship at this clothing brand company in Korea, and I went there for that, and also just for the experience to live there for a while and get out of the city I was in and the stuff that I was doing, and then little by little, I started to realize that there were many opportunities, I guess, communities, musical communities that I could sort of contribute to. And then eventually, you mentioned Epik High, and pretty much that's like everything as far as how this whole thing started. So one thing led to another, and I got a chance to meet Tableau from Epik High, and he sort of the rest was history, but he sort of opened up the door for me, I guess. Yeah, but I never was able, like, I wasn't that, I guess, organized enough at that age to come up with a strategy and a plan. I wish I was, because maybe I would have, have done bigger and better things. But like everything else for me, just kind of happened with a lot of luck and yeah, to my surprise, I guess. So I just sort of followed along with the things that would naturally start to occur. But yeah, long story short, I ended up in Korea at that age, and everything just sort of happened for me, luckily, thankfully.
And in general, how did everything started for you, like for music? Why did you pursue in general to pursue music? Is it something that you were interested in when you were a child or something that came later?
For me, I was one of those kids that music was like my obsession, was the only sort of, you know, interesting thing or fun thing or a thing that I wanted to pursue or play. I always was singing and, collecting, tapes and CDs, and I was always glued to the TV watching music videos and stuff like that. And then eventually I grew older and would start making songs with friends at home and copying bands I liked. So music was always there. I wasn't really interested in anything else for some reason. It was probably, from my parents, or just the way that, they had so much music in the house, or they had Korean music in the house, and, like Korean sing a lot. We do a lot of karaoke, and, we call it 노래방. There's always parties and singing. So, I never gravitated towards the things that the typical kids in my classes and stuff, I was never really good at or interested in other things than music. So yeah, it was just it was just the thing. Yeah.
Do you have any inspiration or artist that you like, or that you used to listen when you were a child or young, or maybe teenager, that maybe inspired you or had a great impact on your view on music, maybe?
Well, there's a bunch. There's a lot. I'm not sure if I remember everything because it gets to be a lot, but I guess the most relevant ones would probably be, just the fact that I was growing up in the 90s. I was listening to music in the 90s, watching MTV in the 90s. So it was all the popular bands. I was really into the whole scene of, grunge bands, alternative bands. And the ones that would always stand out would always take you back to their influences. And somehow, the boring answer, but the true answer is it always goes back to the Beatles for some reason. So in one way or another, I feel like that we're all trying to emulate like what the Beatles were doing. So, but for me, I learned that more through bands that were influenced by the Beatles. So I think of like Nirvana or Oasis, those types of bands that you can clearly hear Beatles influences. So yeah, later on, I guess I realized that like those really like powerful like ways of songwriting and sort of tricks in music were sort of already set back then, and then we're just still learning and relearning and recreating those foundations. So I guess I would say, yeah, those bands come to mind. And then hip hop as well. Hip hop as well was big, obviously, in the 90s, and so forth in the 2000s. But when I wanted to start making, or start writing and start trying to do hip hop, was when I found certain like independent hip hop groups or movements or artists. Souls of Mischief is one that comes to mind, and that they would, the topics and things that they would use in their music was very different from the type of rap or hip hop you would hear on the radio or see on TV, like commercials, things that I felt like I could also contribute to or do, and that also made me want to make hip hop as well. And actually, that I guess when I started to try to actually make my own music seriously, I think I was more driven for whatever reason at that point in time, that age, by the idea of making hip hop music. So there's always that, which is sort of a base for me, I guess.
I guess that you are working as well, or are you only working on your music, or are you like trying to manage both music and maybe your another work or something?
I guess you could call it work. It's pretty much my family life. I'm a part-time dad and a part-time musician, and those things pretty much, there's not much time for anything else other than those two.
Is it hard to balance both?
It is hard to, especially because my wife recently, like about 2 years ago, just had our third child, our third son. So the last, those years are, difficult to to do work in music and art and things like that at the same time. But you find your way. There's always time though. There's always you don't need like complete open schedules to do things. I found. But just now I'm starting to find a good balance and get the hang of actually like really doing both equally. Naturally it ends up always going to family first. But
And apart from that, do you have any hobby that you do in your spare time, maybe, or any maybe skill that you would like to learn?
I always have had skills I'd like to learn, but I'm really bad at learning at learning new things, and also just the idea of learning new things. For some reason, it's very unnatural and intimidating to me sometimes. But I guess I will always have those things I want to do, and then I'll just sort of like settle for a way of not actually doing it the proper way, but doing it some way. So like I could think of I always wanted to like learn how to edit film or make YouTube videos or music videos, and like learn the ins and outs and all and everything like that, and be really good at it. But I'll never get to that stage, but I'll always figure out a way what I want to do, but it kind of like in a half-assed way. And then I'll just settle for that. Like I'll just use an iPhone or use some videos that I had and put them together. But oh well, that's that's good enough. Or I'm always interested in visual arts as well. But I would never get to the point of developing skill and getting deep into it. But if I have a couple of markers and stuff, then I can draw something relatively satisfying to me, and then I'll just kind of that's settle for that. So I found that there's nothing other than music that I could really get into deeply. So it always comes back to music. I guess I could say that hobbies that I have would be things that somehow strengthen or like nurture the ability to have a good space for making music, if that makes sense. So I like to just do really boring things. I like to just get out, just walk, or go grocery shopping, or something. I really like going to the Korean spa. I don't know if that's a hobby, but
Korean spa like Jijilbang?
Jimjirbang, yes, Jimjirbang.
But either any in LA?
There are, yes.
Oh wow. I didn't know that.
It's not as top notch as Korea, but yeah,
Okay.
something that is extremely satisfying and makes me very happy. But again, like when I do those things, though, it's always like, okay, I can step away from music or thinking about writing, and then do that in order to sort of bring you back and calm you down. And then after doing things like that, I'm just in like a very fresh state of mind, which is really, that's very satisfying, I guess.
So you always go back to music, no matter what.
Yeah, it's always like that's just the main hobby, like whether it's because there's many things that you could be doing. You could be digging around for music, new music to discover, new artists to discover. You could be just listening to your favorite songs, or you could be singing, writing, playing, practicing, or you can just be saving little ideas and compiling your musical notes and things, and it just goes on and on. You can read on your favorite artists, or watch films about them. And so I think that I don't have much else that really gives me that sort of thrill as much as anything revolving around music and music making specifically.
I agree because I used to personally like to do a lot of things, but then I realized that I can't do so many things and I have to prioritize certain thing in my life because I tend to like to do a lot of things. And recently I was like, no, I can't do that because if I start to pick up on several hobby or stuff, I won't be able to be good at one thing. So I had to choose one or two things that I have to focus on entirely. So I kind of understand what you're saying actually.
Yeah. How about you? How did you get started hosting this podcast on Korean dramas?
Because I discovered like K-dramas and Korean culture when I was 18 also. And I was at uni and it was during the pandemic. So I decided to take a break because it was not a very fun experience. And then I don't know if you know him, but there is a famous public figure, I would say, that is Gary Vee.
Oh yeah,
Gary
I do.
Vee.
Yes.
And he said one time like people tend to like go to their 9 to 5 job and just trying to escape to this sad reality through their passion. And he said, why not just going through your passion and just live from your passion? And then I don't know why I started to think about Kdramas and podcasts. It's been 3 years that I've been working on it and I can't do anything else. Every time I try to do something else, I just always go back to it.
Yeah. And I'm sure it takes a lot of time as far as like the filming and the editing. And then you think about like, you'd rather be getting that done than doing something else.
So I kind of understand what you're saying actually with music.
Yeah.
Last question for the introduction part, maybe for the one who just discovered you. Can you tell us how would you describe or maybe define your music? It's a hard question, I know.
It is, but the simple, I guess, answer is that it's really just the mixture of all the things that I like. It's just the little, pieces that I borrow and steal and try to emulate and then put them all together. And then, also mixed with, the types of moods and emotions that are going on at that point in time. And then the outcome is a lot of times a surprise. It's kind of like a random result. But I guess as far as genre or style wise, I guess it's really just pop at the end of the day. It's pop. Like we were talking about, a lot of the 90s influences is there naturally. A lot of the vocalists I look up to, like they have certain tones or voicings that they do that I definitely try to emulate, whether it's intentional or not. And then I guess after all these years of making songs and collaborations and albums and things, I guess somehow I wound up with this vibe that is kind of mellow. And that also goes hand in hand with I think with the connections between the OSTs and the dramas that eventually later down the road came along for me. And so I've gotten some feedback that it has a bit of a chillness or like a calm effect, which I like. So I guess that kind of sums it up a little bit.
Actually, it's a great transition to the part of Kdramas OST.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about that because personally I watch quite a lot of dramas and I've always wondered how K-dramas OSTs are made because it's always something that I pay attention to every time I watch a drama. The first thing I pay attention is the OST. So I would like to know for your part, because you worked on a lot of K-dramas actually. Can you tell us a bit like for your own experience how it worked for the creation of maybe each OST or some OSTs?
Sure. So I know like I wish I knew more about the drama. I need to catch up on my dramas, but I do understand all the Korean, but I'm also reading the subtitles. So it's like I have to read the English and listen to the Korean at the same time. So that takes it's more challenging to watch sometimes, but I definitely understand about the connection between all the music with the different movies or dramas or films or shows or whatever. Because I'm always the same way when I'm watching a movie. It's like the music is so much a part of like what's happening on the screen. So, but the way that I got to that point, I guess, is I would start with Cheese in the Trap. It started out as a Korean cartoon, a webtoon, and I guess it was a very successful webtoon that had like a pretty big following, and then they decided to turn that into a real life drama. So yeah, they actually reached out to me and asked if they could, if I had any music that would suit them. And the way that happened was, I guess it really was because I was the type of music I was making at the time in the albums I had just released, and everything like that had my character or my style, and I guess that it was something different at the time. Probably because I have a American or English language base. The Korean, music media or critics would always describe it as, a pop or Brit pop, although I'm not British, sound. So yeah, I think that I was lucky that I could have something unique that they wanted to use. And but one thing to mention about the dramas I noticed is that everything is very quick, fast paced, as far as when they're trying to get things to air and get everything finally edited. Yeah. So they're always like looking for the right music to go with the right scene, episode. And I remember that particular one, it was like very rushed. It was like last minute, and they wanted something quickly, and I only had a demo that was just like made at home in my computer, on GarageBand. But they wanted to use that anyway, so it wasn't even mixed, or there was no engineering involved. And they actually aired the demo version like on the show before we actually got to make an official version. But they just used a clip of it. So, they always use it at the end when the credits come, right at that moment where they want to leave the audience sort of hanging.
A cliffhanger.
And then throughout the next week, they'll promote that clip of music and that, the end image. And then they'll open up the next episode the following week with the song. So during that week, we were able to get in the studio and record it, mix it, and make it right, and then turn it in. But yeah, that was a song called Go, and it was a song that I had already done.
Yeah.
I think that the director heard a bunch of demos that I turned in and really liked that one and thought it worked for the scene. So the scene, I don't know if you're familiar with the show, but there's a scene where the main characters, they make the transition from like friendship to romance, and then right at that transition, they're standing in front of a door, like I think it's her house.
Yeah, right. And like the lights.
The light comes out, yeah.
It's been a long time, but I remember.
And then the song comes out right at that point, so they wanted something for that scene. And I was really lucky that they wanted to use my song.
But how did they present the project to you? If I understood correctly, you sent several demos, right? But how did you choose the right one? Did they like try to direct you in one direction? What type of music they wanted? What kind of themes they wanted?
Okay, well, I guess later I'll explain more like about like Satellite or Chicago Typewriter and Encounter and stuff. Those were very deeper processes. I think we had more time, but for this one, it wasn't that deep. It was just very quick. They were just like,
give us a song.
Yeah, give us a song. And I was like, here you go. I was like, okay, what do I got? What do I got? And then I just send it right away. And it's just a lot of emailing and going back and forth. Of course, though, they always send you a long, description and summary and of what the story is and all that kind of the background of the story. And they give you all those details. Other than that, for that particular one, it was like that. But then, so I've worked on not too many, but maybe around 10 or so. But
that's a lot.
It's not that much though, because like there are artists that like really do like are continuing to do a lot. But I do want to mention Chicago Typewriter and then Encounter, which is so Chicago Tajagi is Typewriter, and then the drama called 남자친구, which translates to boyfriend, but the English title is Encounter. And then there's one called 질투의 화신, which is jealousy incarnate, I think. Yeah. So those three are definitely my favorite by far, and the reason why is because I worked with the music director of those dramas.
Okay.
She just like really, you needed to speak with her if you can one day. But she just really opened up like the world of how music connects with Korean dramas to me and showed me a glimpse inside of how that is. But when she reached out to me, it was a different story because she knew my music and she was very familiar with like what I do and what I sound like and what I'm capable of doing. So she had written songs with me in mind and knowing like what I could do, but I hadn't done yet. She saw like
your potential. The
potential, yeah, because I don't have much classical training, so I just sort of do what feels good, or I do a lot of like kind of freestyle ways of recording and singing and writing. But she thought that I could do these things or do these stylistic things, or with my intonation or whatever, with the flow of the cadence of a delivery of the vocal. And so when we worked together, it was a much longer process. We were in the studio like all day long, and we really just would go at each almost each word, like each note, to get the sound that she had in mind. And she used a lot of references of things that were in her mind. Like I know Radiohead was mentioned, which is another big 90s influence for me. So maybe she knew that right away just from without meeting me or from hearing me. And so she would introduce the songs so she writes the music. So for her process is like she works really like side by side with like the whole crew of the production team of the drama, director. So she's watching, previewing the shows, ahead of time. And so she's like really living with these characters, and you can tell she's just so incredibly passionate. And just so just completely just into it. Like, so like she'll maybe do 1 or 2 dramas a year. So like 6 months out of the year, she's just really living this drama as it's being made. And her job is to write music to go with it. And then, find artists to go with that music and then, sync it up to the dramas. But I think she taught me or showed me, that's how the musical directors really come up with all those sonic ideas and musical vibes for the dramas. It's like they really like have to get into it.
And what is her name?
남혜승 감독. Yeah. If Kdrama music is a thing, then I feel like she's very high up there. Yeah.
So I understand now that there are two types of dramas and two types of making OSTs. One is the rushed one,
Yes.
the rushed process when a drama is heard week by week.
Yeah.
And the other process is more like it's all filmed at once and then you have time to create the music, right?
Sure. But the second type is also rushed. It's just more of a controlled rush, I guess.
Yeah, you can take more time to do the thing correctly and be sure about, No, I know a little bit more about how to create an OST for Kdramas. That's kind of interesting. And if you had to choose one OST, which one would you choose?
I'd probably choose Encounter.
Okay.
Yeah. And hold on, what's the name of that? I forget the name of that song, actually.
The one that is Take Me On.
Take Me On.
From...
Thank you very much. Yeah. That's probably my favorite one.
Actually, at the time when Tease in the Trap aired, I didn't know that it was you, but I remember that I checked on the playlist on Spotify, and the only song that I really loved was yours. There are two versions, isn't it? The English version and the Korean version, right?
Yes, that's both me.
Yeah, I know. As well with Chicago Typewriter with Satellite. This is one of my favorite songs ever. I was very happy when I saw that it was you from Cheese in the Trap.
Thank you so much.
Because I watched Chicago Typewriter like quite later, from like maybe in 2020 maybe? And I really like the song. Satellite is very impactful on the drama. It is the best song from the drama, I guess, and it's very impactful. So this is more like an iconic song from Kdrama.
That's amazing. And I totally. I mean, Namesen Kamdok, the director. That's just completely her vision, and she has that ability to make a drama like that much more impactful, I think, with her music. Yeah.
And more like about Kdramas, but in general, not necessarily like OSTs. You said that you have to catch up on Kdramas because you are quite late on your watching. But
Yes.
Do you have any favorite Kdrama?
I don't watch that much of anything, actually. Actually, I watch a lot of movies. I do.
Oh, okay.
But I'm always into the idea of things. like my kids love anime, and I used to think that I loved anime too, because as a kid I watched maybe a handful of anime, and I really do enjoy the visuals a lot, the art and everything like that, and I really enjoy the idea of a lot of dramas. Like, I love the trailers. I'll tell you the truth. I love the trailers, and I just love the idea of it, like the the story and stuff. But then I never get around to watching them for some reason. I gotta get better at that. But a favorite one, I think there's one called 응답하라 1994, Reply 1994.
Yeah, a famous one.
I like that one a lot for some reason. It's just like a happy kind of comforting type of vibe, and it's just I like the setting of it. I like that time period of Korea. I wasn't there, but we did visit there at that age. When I was younger, and it reminds me of that time. Not only that drama, or not that specific drama, but I guess one of my favorite things, common things in all dramas, are those sort of like time, line things, like the cultural references.
Okay.
Like when they show like 서태지 or HOT or certain music from a certain period, or like a certain location of Korea, of Seoul, or the food too. Like those things, those things are, I think, the parts that excite when I watch. It's like when things that I know from Korea, from my experience there, come out.
But these days, like some quite good K-dramas came out. Like, I don't know if you like more like dystopian kind of drama, but one that is very great is 악마 판사, Devil Judge.
Oh yes. Actually, I've heard of that. Yeah.
This one is very good.
Yes.
And the OST, you should listen to it. It's very beautiful. It's more like on the instrumental side of things and more like string instrumental.
Okay.
This one is very good. It's on Netflix, just in case.
It's on Netflix. Okay.
But it's more like dystopian kind of point of view.
Yeah.
But it's great.
There's so many. Is it current right now? Like, is it from 2023?
No, it's from 2021. It's with Jin Young from GOT7 and Jisung
Okay.
from Kill Me Enemy. And Dr. John.
Ah, right. Dr. John. That's another OST that I was able to do.
And recently you've done the OST of Tracer.
That's right. Yes, I did. Yeah.
The recent one.
Yeah.
So do you plan maybe on doing other OST in the future?
Absolutely. I would love to. And OST was something that I always wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. It's I think it's because after doing a couple albums on my own, I realized that the music I wanted to make was not very commercial sounding. It was not very hit or radio sounding. And it was just like, oh, the place where this music would fit in would be in TV or film, is what I realized. And then I just kept sort of thinking about that and kept, hoping for that, I guess. And it, I guess the music brought it in somehow, but it just luckily happened. My wife talks about it a lot because she always says like things that she hopes would happen for my music, or like hopes what kind of music that she hopes that I would make. It always ends up sort of somehow coming out that way. And she's right, it's true. But I would love to do more OSTs. I would love to do like Korean movies as well. One day, hopefully. But yeah.
And maybe either any genre that you would like to work for, like thriller, romantic drama.
I think, I guess sad for some reason.
Okay.
Sad but uplifting, but that have that sort of emotional quality. That's kind of where I feel like I fit in. As far as making music for TV or film or dramas. In my personal music, though, is kind of opposite. My goal is kind of opposite, which is funny, because I've made a lot of sad music. I feel like in my time doing music, that I kind of have like a joke of a goal that I want to make like really happy music. But when it comes to dramas, though, I feel like there's that place where there's that sad emotion.
More impactful.
It was more impactful and just moving, I guess, because it's not just pure sadness. Because there's just some sort of, I guess the underlying emotion is sadness, but it sort of can make you feel warm at the same time.
Hopeful,
uplifting, and it's just that sweet spot in between.
I see.
If that makes sense, I'm not sure.
No, I understand, and I hope that I will be able to listen to your future OST soon.
Yes,
I hope.
For sure.